So season 2 of High Maintenance just came out. I watched episode 1. It was pretty good, so I decided to give the show a chance, and I went back and I watched season 1. Only 6 episodes. They're all about half an hour long, so you can get through it really quick. And it was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. Quite good, so I wanted to give a review, kind of talking about what kind of show it is, and then also delving into some details about specific episodes later on. Now, since the main character is a drug dealer, some people might go into this expecting it to be a stoner comedy, something great to watch high, and it's not, but it's still a good show. The main reason he is a pot dealer is because the show seems to be saying that, look, pot right now is such a universal drug, all these different types of people smoke it, so if you're a pot dealer, in some ways you can interact with this whole wide swath of humanity that I would say a cocaine dealer or even someone who deals shrooms wouldn't necessarily be able to. And the show's an example of Mumblecore, and one of the features of Mumblecore is having all these different independent characters that are only connected in the loosest of ways. And oftentimes, this pot dealer, he is that connection, just loosely connecting these disparate individuals. And our protagonist is pretty quiet, and sometimes it seems like he exists mostly so people can be ridiculous around him and can say absurd, inappropriate things, and he just kind of reacts to it. But every now and again, he says something where you can see his intelligence and his likability, so he's a great protagonist. And this is Mumblecore, which is just about trying to show ordinary people and ordinary lives without focusing too much on plot or outrageous zany characters. But the show Easy is based in Chicago, and you get a very Chicago vibe. And I didn't realize how much a Chicago vibe until I saw this, and this is based in Brooklyn, and you get a totally different vibe, more of a hipster vibe, more of a hippie vibe, a lot of actual hippies you see, and just it's interesting to compare the two shows. Again, both Mumblecore, both with similar aims, similar approaches, but different flavors because of the different cities. And let me say, we get some beautiful shots, some beautiful, interesting shots of Brooklyn, more so than on Easy we got, and I don't know if that's because they have more to work with Brooklyn versus Chicago, or whether it's the cinematography and the people behind it, but just a lot of beautiful shots and interesting shots to really go with these interesting looks at the people. So now I'll give you some examples of particular episode stories so you can get an idea where, as you'll see, not a whole lot of plot, but each episode has a few premises, a few hooks that the whole episode kind of revolves around. So one episode we have this group of very alternative adults that are all free love, and they're in this big group that all has sex with each other, and one of them, right before his birthday party, gets chlamydia. So then he has to tell this group that he has chlamydia, and he tells them at this party that they've all gone to have sex with each other. And it's very interesting because the different reactions, some of the people are mad that they now have chlamydia, some people are madder that they can't have sex that night because they were very excited. And then they start to rationalize and say, well, look, if we all have it, can we have sex tonight? Because it doesn't really matter. And that's half the episode. The other half of the episode is a different story. But as you can see, it's not really a story. There's no continuation. There's no resolution. It's just this look into kind of a funny, silly thing that happens. And the other half of the episode is a young Muslim girl trying to balance youth culture in America with her more traditional parents. And as far as plot goes, there's not a lot of plot. She tries to buy weed from someone. She can't. She buys weed from someone else. She goes out to a club, comes back home, her parents have found the weed. That's the entire plot. And again, it's not really about all this action. It's just about showing what her life was like that day. And we get kind of a snippet of a day in her life. And nonetheless, it's compelling. And it helps that the actress, she was also in Brad's Status. That's her first kind of, I think, big movie role. And she was great in this, she was great in that. I really hope to see more of her. And I will say, some of the most experimental TV that I've seen, in episode 3, the entire perspective is through a dog. And we get a really touching and moving love story that the dog has. First we see the dog have this misconnection where he's being walked, and this cute little Pomeranian goes by, and you really feel the love and the attention and the attraction this dog feels, and then cruelly, the owners move away, and the dog has no choice but to say goodbye to that. And you're really identifying with this dog and feeling his emotions, and then develops this quite sweet relationship with his dog walker. And at one point, they're having this beautiful walk and having their special time together, and someone who recognizes the dog walker comes over, and he kind of barks and tries to get them away, and you just really feel that he's waited all day. You see him waiting all day for the dog walker to come over, and then he finally has this time together and just doesn't want it interrupted by anyone, so he barks, and just something you see all the time, just a dog barking, and you don't really know why. It's just unexplainable. Here you get one explanation for why it might be happening. And we get this fascinating theory of what is it the dogs actually see and hear when they look or hear us. And it's a mix of what our actions are, but it's very interpreted through dogs and their symbols and what's important for them. So they'll kind of see what we're doing and kind of hear what we're saying, but it's very much filtered through their own language. So the season had some great experimental TV, and it had this great mix of realism, of showing both the realism of the mundane, banal of life, but also of the most extreme. So in one episode, right beside each other, we have both this education or this teaching class for old people to be able to use technology better. And there's some hilarious lines about how when you're using your phone, you don't have to lick your finger every time you use it. This technology doesn't need that. I don't know what technology needs that, but I'm sure it was something back in the day. And then there's this great quote that when you are texting, you don't have to add your name at the bottom, like your contact information is already saved in someone's phone. So those great little true to life elements. But then also we see these day ravers, and they call their day raves adult preschool, and one of the day ravers is called Professor Cupcake. So we just pair these, again, the most mundane and banal, and then also these extremes and the most colorful expressions of humanity. It's really interesting. And there's this great quote that these day ravers spend their entire lives either decompressing from or getting ready for Burning Man. But I think the highlight of the season for me was episode 5, and particularly the first half, where we get probably the best, most realistic depiction I've seen of social media, even better than Ingrid Goes West. That was a movie that came out recently, nailed its depiction of Instagram. This was even better. Just the detail they put into this episode was amazing. We see this millennial who's completely broke, but she goes into this fancy clothing store, goes in the mirror, and takes a selfie, and then her caption is, "Treat yourself," but then she leaves without buying the dress because she has no money. So just that fascinating contrast between real life and social media life. And then we see this hilarious millennial to-do list that has things like pay student loan and also buy domain name, probably on everybody's post-grad to-do list. And lots of people like to poke fun at millennials and satire and parody them. This was the best I've seen because they didn't exaggerate, they didn't take cheap shots, they just showed what her day was like in all its stark reality. And it was gut-wrenching, and she ends the day just sobbing and crying. And it was just such a powerful moment because, again, you understand why she's crying. It doesn't explain why she's crying, but if you watch the episode and you see what her life really is like, you totally understand why she's just bawling at the end of the episode. So I'm going to end it there. So many other things I want to say and I want to talk about. The video is getting long, so I'll end it there. I might make another video about season 1 or a few more videos about season 1, and I'll also be doing weekly recaps of season 2 that's coming out right now. So check those out as well if you like this video.